Start. Thank you. So today we have Amit Dewan. Amit is a senior Agile coach at FM Global, and he is presenting on the Agile Buzz and the cost we pay. Welcome, Amit.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I am sharing my screen. Let me know if you can see it.
Now, yeah.
Yes.
Great. You see the full screen version?
Yes, we do.
Perfect. All right. So thank you for having me here, and thank you for taking time out to listen to me. So first off, let me start with introducing myself. As Sue mentioned, I'm one of the Agile coaches with FM Global. I'm very fortunate to be a part of the organization. Love every minute of what I do there. I have had the fortune of being a student of Agile for over a decade and a half now. I've started with development as a developer, mainframe, COBOL, JCL developer. Very quickly realized that's not for me. Requires more brains than I possess. So quickly moved on to other places where I could use some of my interpersonal skills more than my brains, and started learning about this cool world of Agile back in early 2000s, later 2000s actually. Played different roles: Scrum Master, Product Owner, Agile Coach at different levels, team level, program out level, value stream level, enterprise level, playing similar role here at FM Global as well. And along the journey, I've learned a lot from thousands of people that I've met, trained, coached with, trained with, got educated from. And the most important thing that I liked about those learnings was the human nature. And that's some of what we're going to talk about today. And this session is very close to my heart because I've seen a lot of frameworks and ceremonies and roles and responsibility conversations. But there are other parts of the puzzle that I feel we sometimes miss out in our conversation. And that's the focus of this conversation. This is going to be a lot of conversational session. It's not so much of presenting the slides and going through the material. It's more about what do you think about, what do we as a group think about, things that we've learned, and I have some questions baked in here to drive some of those conversations. So with that said, I will open it up to this group to ask my first question. You see my screen. There is a visual on the right side of my screen, right bottom. What do you think about it? What does that mean to you? And I think we're a relatively light group, so we
offer a solution versus present a problem. Or
Sure.
Don't talk about a problem unless you have a solution.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, or jump to the solution without actually looking at the problem.
Yeah, no solution first.
Yep. Understand what you're trying to solve for before you try to solve it.
Sure. Does anyone see this as kill the problem with the solution?
Now I do.
Yeah, so again, it's perspective, right? There's so many different ways that we can perceive this. But yeah, I hold that thought. I think we're hitting something here with some of what we heard. So let me quickly jump into the agenda for today. And again, as I said, there's a lot of questions baked into this conversation. So I'd love to hear more from the diverse background that we have from different people, different industries, different geographies. and see what you guys are looking at, what you're seeing, and I'll share my experiences as well into all of these different topics. The first one being why organizations adopt Agile, what we end up doing, where did we miss it, what's next, and then we'll close it with more conversations, maybe more Q&A. If there's deep dive conversations to be had, welcome to ask more questions, and we'll keep it going from there. All right, so let's begin with our first question. Why do organizations adopt Agile? Or let me ask the question a little differently. Why do you think organizations like implementing Agile?
Well, it depends on where they're coming from. I think some of them are blinded by the new shiny object, right? So it's a great solution to make things go better, but they don't really understand what's involved in that. So I think they just kind of, it's just like an over eagerness to try something new. I think that happens a lot.
Trying something new, sure.
Sometimes, along that same line, sort of the negative approach is, to be competitive with other companies in the same industry, say, sure, we're doing Agile too. But maybe from a positive, standpoint, why do they adopt it is, for all the reasons in the Agile Manifesto, to be literally agile and flexible and meet customer demands quickly and stay ahead of their competition.
I don't think organizations do adopt Agile very much. I think they expect IT to adopt it, but that's not at the organization level. And they only do that because they think they can save resources by adopting Agile, that they'll somehow not need as many people or be able to produce more with the same people.
So we're saying that organizations don't like implementing Agile or adopting Agile?
I don't think most of them actually do adopt Agile other than within IT. I think that's one of the problems right now in a lot of organizations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of forcing the question or the change from the bottom up, right? So it's really better if you have folks with experience and background and understanding from the top down to engage everybody across the board instead of focusing on just IT. But again, I think that's rare.
Let's also ask, what do organizations really care about?
Money, bottom line. Save the resources, save the cost, keep the customers happy, keep them coming back. Repeat.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I think organization is, it's a relative term, right? I mean, if you're talking about like enterprise level, large organizations, which are hard to kind of move and maybe have a long history, or a startup, is an organization, but, could be entirely agile.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So again, I think we hit some of this. The point is, organizations don't like to implement Agile. They only care about their top line, their bottom line. Agile is the means to the end. And oftentimes we lose that sight of, Agile means Scrum or frameworks or scaled Agile, or read about these cool metrics or books or authors. There is so much buzz around Agile that in the process, when we come to actually implementing Agile, we stop thinking about why are we doing this in the first place. If we go back to the origins of Agile, the whole reason why Agile was introduced back in 2000 was because traditional models were not working. They were not able to deliver working software, not frequently enough. So the organizations really care about their top line and bottom line, and Agile is supposed to, or is deemed to help them achieve that. Does that mean they don't care about Agile? Absolutely not. They do and should But Agile, again, is the means to an end. It's not the end itself. And that's the part that gets missed out in so many of these trainings and frameworks and methodologies, that we miss the big picture. Why are we doing this? Why Agile in the first place? The bigger question is, how many times have you witnessed Agile help organizations to achieve their ultimate goals? How many times do we have an actual conversation about how does doing one way or the other, or being Agile, helps us achieve our top line or bottom line or anything else? How many of us have had an actual conversation around that in the context of Agile? Let's talk about it. So,
Yeah, and multiple times, in agile transformations at established companies, as well as teams that were starting up, as agile. But there's a phrase that I really like. It's agile doesn't fix everything, but it shows you where the issues are, and then you have to actually, sometimes fix things. Right? I mean, it doesn't have all the answers. If things are dysfunctional in certain ways, if you're not getting requirements, if people aren't creating quality code, agile doesn't fix it. But constantly inspecting and adjusting, that is a means to an end.
it's a means to an end.
But you have to do the work.
Yeah. I've had many conversations with many different leaders. And the first question I ask, even in an interview setting, is why Agile? What are you looking to get out of it? And a lot of times I've heard really good answers. And as you join an organization, you start working with the leaders inside the organization, everyone has a different thought. Me and my peer in the same organization may have different reasons why we as an organization are doing or being Agile. So again, there's that consistent messaging that gets lost from leaders to managers to teams to anyone in the organization. And you can imagine, if we're all going after different goals, how consistent would we be in meeting those goals of protecting the team, the organization's top line and bottom line? And that's what ends up happening. And I'm not saying all the organizations, there are a lot of organizations out there that implement Agile, implement some ceremonies of a framework or a structure, but do not directly relate that back to how do we actually get that to our benefit to increase our revenues, increase our profits, or other benefits that we see that will help our organization. And that's how Agile has always been designed to do. But in the process of frameworks, in the process of a lot of conversations, we lose the basic sense of why Agile. So what's the connection? How do we establish that connection between what Agile value proposition is to getting the organization that benefit for their top line and bottom line?
I think a company needs to know where they are initially. As somebody who meets with a lot of people at various stages of their journey, to your point, Amit, when you ask that question, why do you want to do this?
Mm-hmm.
It probably won't surprise anybody in this meeting. The answers aren't really compelling many times. There often isn't. The people that you're talking to don't have a compelling business reason why they should do this, which is an indicator that it's likely not positioned correctly in the organization, and it's likely not going to be successful. I think it was Sheila who mentioned that it's often, for lack of a better word, siloed inside the IT group, who are the brave ones that want to take it on, but you don't get, quote, not even buy-in. If you don't get buy-in implies like passive. You have to get business folks that want some skin in the game, and they're willing to change the way that they operate, because if they don't, it's just not going to go anywhere. And companies, I've seen many companies spin many wheels and spend many millions of dollars and really don't gain any traction.
Well,
Exactly.
and they presented it as something being done to them instead of inviting them and understanding what success is.
Right. Yeah.
We don't take in the human aspect of it at all. It tends to be forgotten. And that's
Yeah,
where we
it's
should.
a subset of a change management component. If it's not a big change
Mhm.
management, something in place, then it's going to fail.
It's even worse in the government because there was some kind of a law passed that said they had to move to Agile.
If it's a mandate, then it's doomed.
Yeah.
With a lot of thought behind it too, I'm sure, right?
Right.
Right.
And I recall one of the interviews when I asked this question towards the end, and of course I can't reveal the client name, but the answer that I got was, we're doing Agile because we're asked to do so. And
Bingo.
exactly. And I think that's the state of a lot of organizations out there. They're either being asked to do without connecting the why with the how. Being part of Agile transformations where we measure success with how many teams are now Scrum, or how many teams are Kanban, or in this entire ecosystem, percentage completion of 80% of our teams are now Scrum or Kanban, hence we're an Agile organization. So there are metrics that define on papers implementing Agile, but there are hardly any metrics that define what is in it for the team, what is in it for the organization, what is in it with Scrum or Kanban or SAFe or any methodology or framework that you choose that helps back the business, that helps back the organization to achieve its ultimate goals. So if you
I've
poke a
had
little,
clients who, I've never heard anyone explicitly say this, but when asked, when you see the context clues and you read between the lines, to your point, Amit, because someone's telling me to do this, and the X% of somebody's bonus is contingent upon getting X amount of people trained in Agile or X amount of teams, quote, spun up. There's no burning platform there. It's the wrong driver. And again, companies will spend millions and millions of dollars in many, many years for little to no return.
Exactly. And no surprise, these companies come back and may even say Agile didn't work for us.
Or they blame the consulting firm that
Consulting firm,
counseling them on it.
it could be anyone. It could be the consulting firm. It could be the teams. It could be the process itself. Scrum, Kanban, name it. If it doesn't work, the process didn't work. And that's kind of going back to my first page is we're looking at the solutions before we even think about the problem that we're going to solve. All right, so there are two aspects that we just touched upon, the top line and the bottom line. And there are value propositions within Agile, right? Agile offers a lot of benefits. So which of those benefits in your mind do you think help organizations use Agile to drive their top line?
Speed to market. Beat your competitor.
Yeah, 100%. Actually, I think that's my first one.
And the ability to change direction, the people aren't
responding to market
so
dynamics.
fixed in their roles that, there's no way to change.
200%.
Bringing the work to them, allowing, midstream changes.
Yep. So this reminds me of an example. This was 2014, I think. This was the time when I was a Scrum Master for Best Buy, and Best Buy was sinking, and it was and that time Amazon was growing pretty strong. So it was not uncommon for customers to go to these big box stores, the Best Buys of the world, select a product, and because they don't find the same price in at Best Buy, people used to go there, even use Best Buy network to order from Amazon and place an order for a TV to get it next day. And Best Buy was going out of market, all because of that. Now, this is again bringing back to responding to change. The leaders in the e-commerce side of the world came up with an idea, which was again not a very new idea in those days or even now, but they thought if we keep on the space, we're going to be running out of business. They came with one better, and they offered in-store price matching with Amazon or any other website that they see. You come in, select the product, take the product with you to your home, will price match whatever price you see on Amazon. And right there, they bounce back. And imagine if they could not do it, they could not respond to that market dynamic as quickly as they did in their e-commerce space, we wouldn't be seeing Best Buys today. So that's how powerful some of those market changing to responding to market dynamics is if you don't act fast enough, we're out of business in no time. And that's the fast-paced market in any industry. Retail is, of course, way more aggressive than some of the other businesses out there. But in any other industry, if I'm on an app and it doesn't work for 2 seconds, 5 seconds, I'm not going to be trying again. I may even go out of that app and try a different organization, different solution. One of my previous organization CEOs said something which resonated so well with me. This was again an insurance organization. And the mantra that the CEO had was, forget about we being an insurance organization. Just think about us as a technology organization that happens to sell insurance products. Because if you don't have technology to respond to changes or to be friendly with our customers, people don't really look at your product. They don't even get to it. Because by then they've lost interest. If you can't hold your technology well, then how well you can manage the customers. So responding to market dynamics is definitely one of those. I heard a beep. I don't know what that means. Is there a question?
No, sorry, someone just joined.
Okay. What else? What other value propositions help Agile's value proposition help companies drive their top line? We heard to responding to market dynamics, responding to change. Time to market was another one, which is the next one here. Is there anything else that helps drive their top line?
Delivering what customers want, like delivering things incrementally.
Yeah.
So that you get feedback on it and you satisfy the customer more.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I think that somewhat also feeds into time to market, that incremental delivery piece of it. Absolutely. And the quality as well, 100%. And that's definitely one aspect of top line or bottom line for that matter, if you're holding on to your customers. Alignment is another one. Again, it's not uncommon to have conversations with leaders, business, product, technology side, where the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. And the left hand's done everything. They've done their market research. They've done customer surveys, talked to field engineers or people who are actually using the products. They've done all the homework. But on the right hand, which is the product side of things or the development side of things, if they're not working on the same goals and there isn't enough alignment, we're losing on the top line. We're working on features, functionality that do not deliver the value that our customers want. So without alignment, the company cannot generate enough revenues or the top line suffers. So again, that's a big one in a lot of conversations that I've had with so many different leaders, both on the business, product, technology side, that people don't understand it enough. They don't talk enough. They understand it, but they don't talk to each other enough to be talking to what's the highest priority? What are we going after? is this really what our customers or organization benefits the most from? Or is it my part of organization and your part of organization, and I have a higher grade or the highest paid person in the organization that gets the advantage of my features being picked up against any other features in the organization? So again, not having that alignment hurts the organization. Then Agile helps bring that too. How does Agile drive companies' bottom line?
Potentially you have smaller teams working closely together. It's not a guarantee that you're going to reduce overhead, but if you do have small teams working efficiently, you may not have waste, as well as if you really have cross-functional people, then you're not losing time, and because you have only experts. And
Yeah. So I think you touched upon some of that. Not losing time, reducing waste, it all contributes to the cost, right? How do we reduce the cost? With improved team dynamics, team productivity, team morale, which is not the direct benefit of feeding into the bottom line.
Well,
definitely
retention,
help.
you're not rehiring. So, if your morale's higher, you're less likely to lose employees and have to rehire,
Exactly.
which is waste.
Absolutely.
And this leads into delivery of a solid product, which is early adoption, which repeat business, more engagement, more customer involvement. That might be more bottom line, but it's tied in.
And there are a lot of benefits to or value proposition to Agile that may not be as direct as feeding into top line or bottom line directly, right? Like visibility is another one, predictability is another one. It doesn't directly feed into increasing revenues. Maybe it does, but it does directly have an impact to a lot of what we're talking about here. And that feeds into the top line, that feeds into the team morale, which in turn feeds into attrition and reduced costs and time to ramp up and so many other aspects of Agile. Customer satisfaction is another one. If we can retain our customers with enhanced product quality through feedback loops, that's another one that helps us drive that bottom line. So the question is, we all know these are benefits. How many times have you seen organizations or in our own scope of work have people talk about these? Oh, we're doing a stand-up because that will help us, help us drive customer satisfaction with enhanced product quality or help us with a greater time to market. How many times have people come back and said, we're not doing this because it doesn't help us drive some of these benefits because of which we started with our Agile journey? You won't find many. At least I have not seen many in my travels. So again, we don't start with the why. We don't start with the problem. We don't start with an opportunity. We start with solutions. We start with frameworks, for example, right? And that's where I think that's where we need to take a pause, think about why we're doing this. What is in it for us? What is in it for my team? What is in it for my organization? And hence, let's approach it that way. And again, every organization has different whys, right? Some organizations may just care about, I only care about responding to market dynamics and reducing cost. Another organization might pick up another one of those, visibility and alignment is the most important one for them because that's where they're hurt the most. So again, every organization has a different why behind it. It's all upon us as to how we ask those questions and help drive the adoption of Agile to meet those goals. And that's a conversation that we've been missing in our own little world. So again, what do organizations end up doing? So you go to web, search for the word Agile, and see what shows. You won't see the why. You won't see any of the benefits that we just talked about. You'll definitely see a lot of trainings. You'll definitely see a lot of authored books, blogs about it, but none of this would talk about why Agile. What is in it for me? What is in it for the organization? So that's how we're bringing this whole culture of adopting Agile, but not being Agile by living the benefits of Agile. Again, organizations got very invested in Agile processes and framework at the cost of the big picture. We just talked about that. Got lost in the how before defining or even understanding the why. Anyone familiar with this challenge?
Yes, the marshmallow challenge.
Yeah.
It is the marshmallow challenge. Is everyone familiar with what it is? If not, I can give a little bit of background of this.
Spaghetti,
No,
marshmallow, how you
Yeah. So this is a challenge about an experiment that was run where different age groups were given these tasks to build the tallest building using 20 sticks of spaghetti and some marshmallows. Connect the sticks and build the tallest building. The results were very surprising, at least to me. And some of the observations were there were different sets of people, professionals, MBAs, business software developers, kindergarten students, high school students. There's a lot of different groups that experimented with that, and they were given the same time. Who do you think came up with the tallest buildings?
youngest kids, because they had the
Yeah.
less preconceived obstacle.
Yeah, well, why do you think that's true?
They weren't afraid to fail.
They're not afraid to fail. They are not afraid to fail. They're not afraid to ask the why. As we grow older, we start accepting things around that. Our inquisitiveness takes a hit. And as we get into an organization, let's say a developer comes in and joins a team, and this is how Scrum's done. If I was a kindergarten student, my first question would be, why are we doing this? Why do we have to daily stand up? Why do we have to plan every 2 weeks? We have lost our inquisitiveness because we start accepting things as they come. And that's the part that children are at advantage in some of the adults, because they don't fear for failure. They don't worry about failing. They ask questions. If I talk to my 8-year-old, 10-year-old and say anything, I better have an answer for the why. If I don't, they'll chew my life away because they won't take just anything for an answer. They really need a logical explanation of why dad said this and what may be the reason behind why I have to do something. So there is that inquisitiveness that kids have, and we've lost along the way. And that's the lesson that we need to draw from our kids or from the younger generation, is never take anything on the face value. We've got to move away from our stereotypes. How often do we take a pause? How often do we have someone from our team ask questions around, why are we doing this way? What's the problem we're trying to solve? Have you seen in your travels anyone, people coming up and asking questions around why stand-ups, why planning sessions, how do you measure success? How many times have we had those conversations with our teams?
Yeah, not only the teams, but from management. Why are you making, people do this? Or, the other side of metrics, why aren't the metrics better? Or, why is this team different than that team? So, the
Yeah.
work would be different. Like, let's be realistic.
Absolutely, yeah.
I often hear the different side of the story. It's not effective. So it's like, let's just stop doing it.
It also
Yeah.
depends. It
Go
also
ahead.
depends on which framework you're working with, because if it's scaled agile, they say if you change anything, you're not doing scaled agile. And a lot of people buy into that. And a lot of people say, well, we're going to do our flavor, and then they take away things that are critical and wind up having to recreate them later. But a lot of the teams I've worked with, we've discussed, do we want to do a stand-up every day, or is that kind of a waste of time? And we wound up doing them 3 or 4 days a week, depending on the team and what they were working on.
Yeah, the way I approached that was, we need to establish a discipline. We've gone from a very chaotic environment and approach to a more organized structure. And yes, you might not need a stand-up 5 days a week, but let's all join the call and spend 2 minutes confirming we have nothing to talk about, and then go about our day. Because the day will come where you really need to have that conversation, and the opposite is, or the risk is, you become accustomed to just blowing off a meeting and not going to the meeting. So I try to take the approach that if we keep them engaged, keep the discipline, keep the focus, we'll all be available for each other when the time. Not that, doing it just 3 days a week is wrong. It's perfect for your team. That's just the way I try to handle it.
Yeah, I usually put them on the schedule and then discuss with the team whether they really want one, or if we're not having anything to discuss for several days in a row, then we start talking about, are we doing
Right.
it too frequently?
Right.
But that doesn't
And
mean
that-
I'm
and
going to take them off the schedule permanently. We're going to discuss whether that makes sense just for this sprint or for future sprints as well. And for
that's the key is the collaboration, the discussion, and the team decision, and having that view that we all believe that it's having excellence and make a decision. I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, and why are we doing it, right? Does everyone understand on the team why we're doing a stand-up, why we're having a planning session? What does success look like at the end of each of those 15 minutes, 2 hours, whatever time we spend on those sessions?
A lot
That
of
often gets
times I hear-
lost.
a lot of times I hear people say, Agile makes us do this. We have to do this because of Agile. And I
Right.
end up pulling up the Agile manifesto and, going through that with them. It's like, this is what Agile says. It doesn't say that Agile is different than Scrum. Agile is not Kanban. Agile is the Agile manifesto.
Mhm.
Let's talk about it. And if anybody ever tells you Agile says I must do this, show them the manifesto. This is all it says. It has values and principles.
Yeah. And the unfortunate truth is no one asks those questions, not even the team members. At best, they'll take it at a face value. How many times do we go after metrics without knowing what this metrics helps us solve? Velocity is another classic one, right? Do all the team members understand what the value of velocity is? Why they're doing story pointing, the relative estimation, the different factors? Why is that important? Well, what does it help the organization benefit from by having velocity in place? Similarly, metrics, for example, right? Like so many metrics out there, like how much did we commit to, how much did we deliver? There's so many of those metrics out there that a lot of organizations just blindly accept, and they have to show results based off of those metrics without even asking. We're doing a different way. We're we're delivering better results than anybody else, but our velocity sucks. Is there something wrong with that? We're delivering value. If our top goal is to go to market faster, we're going to market every 5 days, every 2 weeks. We're meeting that goal, even if our velocity is not consistent, even if we're not meeting our sprint goals every now and then. I don't know if there are teams out there that have the courage to ask those questions or even understand those are the questions to be asked, because they're not educated that way. They're educated to follow a certain training, a certain framework that the rest of the organization is doing, and they get swallowed into it without asking questions, and they get trapped into this herd mentality. So again, no questions asked, very minimal questions asked, if any, and just go with the flow that everybody has been doing. Let's assume it has worked for others, it will work for us as well. So I have my own, speaking of Agile Manifesto, so I have my own version of where did we miss it? And this is, of course, not an Agile Manifesto, but it does highlight or underscores the place where we are, or where a lot of these organizations are. There are, and don't get me wrong, there are a bunch of organizations that are doing it the right way. They're asking the right questions. They provide that ecosystem to their employees, or peers or managers, the right to ask those questions. But majority of the organizations do not do that. So this is again my version. Again, it's stolen the language from the manifesto, but the words are mine. Organizations often don't uncover better ways of developing software, because of which we value jargons and terminology over commonsensical conversations, agile frameworks over its value proposition, solution bias over defining a problem, maintaining status quo over challenging it. And this is exactly all that we've talked about so far. We're so lost in jargons and frameworks, in solutions, in maintaining the status quo because we don't want to look bad, that we get lost in this agile world, this agile buzz. And the cost that we pay is we miss on the big picture. We miss on the value proposition behind it and how we can meet our company goals by implementing agile to solve those particular problems. That is, while there's much value in the items on the right, orgs often get lost in the items on the left. All right, moving on. Again, continuing, where did we miss it? So agile means nimble and flexible, right? By nature, we as human beings are not flexible. Change doesn't come naturally to any of us, right? If someone asks me, you're a late night person, not a morning person, change your habit, start waking up early in the morning, starts going to bed early in the night, it's uncomfortable for me. Unless someone threatens to kill me, I won't do it, right? So change is hard. Change by nature doesn't come to us naturally. How do we change ourselves? Is by practice, is by doing it over and over again. And why would we do it over and over again? Is only when we see the value behind it. Is only when we see how is that going to help me if changing this habit is going to maybe help me see the value delivered, or help my organization deliver more, or give me a sense of achievement that I've delivered something that someone's actually using, which makes a happy customer. So unless I see it, I see the benefit behind it, the benefit of sleeping early and getting up early, I won't do it. And that's the whole proposition on forgetting about the why, and we don't take a pause to do that. Part of the practice is to unlearn how we jump to solutions straight away. Frameworks, for example. Again, every single conversation that I have, and been having those conversations for the past so many years with business, with product teams and development teams, it is so hard to have people think about what problem are we trying to solve before thinking about the solution. There have been conversations where I've had multiple working sessions talking about the exact same problem, and people come back and say, it'd be cool if we could provide this feature. It'd be cool if the customer had the ability to do this. And then I ask that question, why would it help? And either they have a great answer, which would lead itself to confirming their solution bias, or in most other cases, they start thinking about, oh, this doesn't help solve so many problems as we were thinking, but there's probably another problem to be solved, which our customer really cares about. So that solution bias is ingrained into humans by nature. And the more we practice going away from it, the better we land. So we human beings are naturally very good at finding, actually not finding, assuming solutions, and don't want to be wrong about it. Albert Einstein once said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'll spend 55 minutes defining the problem. And that's so true. If we understand the problem, if we know what problem we're after solving for, solution discovery is the easy part. The biggest challenge is that most people assume that they understand the problem without even talking to anyone, without even talking to themselves, let alone others. And they end up going with a solution which may or may not, and sometimes they do. Most of the times they do not solve for a problem that the customer may actually be looking for, or business may be, even a team may be looking to solve. And that solution bias keeps us away from solving the ultimate problems. So what's next? What's next is thinking about it, right? In our own ecosystem, wherever we come from, different organizations that we're a part of, or different teams that you're part of, ask a question: what business problem does your team need to solve? And I'll pose this question out in the open here. How many of us know what problems we're looking to solve as at different levels, right? Whatever part of the organization you come from. If you're a Scrum Master, what problems is your team looking to solve? If you're a coach, what problems do you see, or whatever level of coaching you're doing? If you're a leader and enterprise level executive, what problems are the enterprise looking to solve? So what's your problem? What's the problem that you think you'll be solving for in your own ecosystem, or your teams are supposed to be solving for? And it's a hard one.
I mean, for me, at the smallest level, we're trying to make sure that our delivery lines up with our requirements, which lines up with the actual business need. That whole discussion has been very challenging. So that's one of the things that we're trying to better align on.
Yep. So alignment. Others?
I really like using, the framework of a user story, as a, what am I doing and why? So that you really kind of see that whole flow through, who the audience is, what you're actually trying to accomplish, and why you're trying to do it, whether that's, a user story from a project charter level, but that same framework at all the different levels, and even, like a company mission, if you use that kind of same framework, you really, it's a great structure for identifying
Absolutely,
clearly
yes.
why you're trying to do it,
and
and go down to each task.
yeah, the nice thing about using that framework is that it exposes the tendency to solution instead of define what I'm looking for. Right? We all tend to say, here's what I want you to give me. No. Define what functionality you're trying to do. And that terminology or that language helps define that very clearly. And it helps us redirect folks to say, well, I know what you're saying, but let's refine that requirement a little bit. And we'll let the developers decide how we're going to get there. And that changes the whole conversation. It's difficult, but it tends to be more productive.
Yeah,
It's a hard one. It's again, obviously we didn't come prepared to answer this question. What business problem does your team or yourself looking to solve? But if you start thinking about it, there's a lot of problems. out there, right? And I know as a coach, I coach my product owners, my business to narrow on one or two problems, but it's hard. It's as there are so many problems around us that if I was to ask you to think about the one ultimate problem that you want to solve in your ecosystem, you're going to have to think about it. You're going to have to take a pause, throw in some hypothesis, validate it with your team if you're thinking about your team, and then come up with an answer. It's not as straightforward as a word or some of what we just talked about. It's much more than that. And that's where varied perspective, a lot of different perspectives, solving for the same goals help. And unfortunately, we don't talk about it. We never have conversations with our team to understand their understanding of what business problems are they looking to solve, and why is it useful for them? Why is it useful for the business? Why is it useful for the customers? So we just miss out on that. So again, take a pause, define the problem, gather different perspectives, narrow on one statement, which would be the problem, not the solution. Again, I've run many different problem solving sessions with different audience. I've very often come to gather different perspectives where people come in and they start talking about, this feature is missing and that's why it's a problem. And that's a very common understanding that people bring to the table is we're again going for the solution bias, but this feature helps solve for a problem. If you're building, let's say, a login feature, and you say login is something that we need to solve for, what's the underlying problem, business problem that the login page is going to help solve for? Is that security? Is that why it's important? Maybe there's something else. Maybe there's another feature out there. Maybe a card payment gateway system that's failing on us. That's more important than the one that we're looking at. But because now we're comparing the two whys in between the two of these, or maybe even more, now we're able to clearly see where one weighs more or less than the other. So again, taking that pause in defining the problem and narrowing it on one. Again, focusing on a problem, not problems, is the key. And here's an oxymoron. We're focused on too many problems that you're not focused at all, because at any given point in time, you're only focused on one thing. Solving for too many problems is another problem. So we don't want to open the can of worms either. Don't assume an end. Set measurable goals. Define SMART outcomes. And I don't know how many of us are aware, but SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, ready, and timely outcomes. So if you define those outcomes in that light, we were able to be very specifically achieve or target a certain problem and achieve those goals as a result of addressing that problem. Again, keep in mind, plenty of tools out there, lots and lots of tools out there, frameworks out there, processes out there. We define a problem and the tools help us solve the problem. It's not the other way around. And we often end up in a world where we're looking at a solution, we start implementing frameworks, and then we think about what's the problem this is going to help us solve. And that's where we lose the big picture. In closing, there's never a one size fits all. A solution that works for team one may not work for team two. So frameworks are built to guide us solve problems, but these are not solutions by itself. And that's the mistake that some of us make is, and I've been guilty of this for majority of my career. I've started learning about frameworks. I got my certifications, I got my trainings, and started believing that if I implement it the right way, all the problems will go away. But that's not true, because I've not even thought about the problem. I've not made my teams think about, or my organizations think about the problems that we're trying to solve, and have not connected the dots between the problem definition and the solution that we're after. Change begins with you. Again, if you're looking for a better ecosystem around you, it starts with you. There's no easier way to do it. We don't find people to help us do it for us. We got to start asking those questions. If you're a change influencer or if you're a change agent, you start implementing that change by starting defining why are we looking for the change. If you're someone who is adopting a change, then you start asking questions. Why are we doing it this way? Why not another way? How does it help solve for the problem that we're looking to solve? What is the problem? Keep the end in mind. Organizations need to define the end in mind. Again, focus on defining outcomes, actionable plans, produce plenty of tools out there. You could define your own OKRs. And OKRs are, again, objectives and key results. They're not limited to business outcomes and key results. You could apply it anywhere. We have our own process level OKRs within our organization. A lot of different organizations use and build their own OKRs and strive to achieve those. So again, keeping outcomes and the end in mind, build those outcomes, build a plan, and then start acting upon it. And most importantly, inspect and adapt. As you define those goals, you build solutions, go back and measure. If there is success that's gained as a result of implementing a solution, where's this success coming from? Are we meeting the goals that we stated to achieve? Are we meeting those results, the intended results that we wanted to achieve as a result of a solution that we proposed? And if we're not, there's nothing wrong about it. It's just that we were wrong about assuming certain things that didn't work in our favor. We try something else, but we keep trying. Right. That brings us to the end of this presentation. Thank you for your commitment and participation. There is some more content that I have. If people are interested in more deep dive into how do we connect the dot between those different agile value propositions using the tools and methodologies from the different frameworks or processes that we use. I have another few pages there, but again, that was not the goal of this session, but if people are interested, I'm happy to stay back and answer those questions or any other questions.
Great. It was a great presentation, Amit.
Thank you.
I know this information, but I haven't seen it presented this way. And I like it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the part that I feel we all know about it. I don't think I said anything that's new to anyone. It's how we process it, and it's how we remind ourselves to keep thinking about it. And I think that's the message that I wanted to get out of this presentation. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, it's given me some good food for thought as I bring this team along, and get them into a new way of working. I'm comforted by what you showed me. I'm already going down the right path, so that's good. But there's always room for improvement. So there's a lot of things that I can take away from this to help, continue to be a cheerleader for the team and encourage them and engage them in the whys, right? I mean, I don't want to be, we're doing this because Paul said so. I want them to understand exactly like you're saying, why are we doing this? What's the benefit? How's it going to help us? And they're not going to understand that unless we have that conversation. So that's just one of the things that I'm going to take away from it.
Glad to hear that. Yeah, it's a tough conversation. It's not something that we're used to. Transparency, again, doesn't come naturally to us as human beings, right? Like, it's especially in corporate world. How do we break those barriers and be totally open about it, transparent about it, and look at the big picture? I think that gets missed out a lot.
Yeah, I hear, sometimes people repeat just doing Agile, not being Agile.
Mm-hmm.
You're just kind of going through the motions, and it's important, to Paul's kind of challenge that he's got, a group of people who have been working traditionally to to keep reiterating, whether you put it in a meeting agenda, for the stand up, what do we plan to do? Or, at the start of a meeting, hey, we're doing a retro, we're here to do X, Y, and Z. Our goal is to come out with some action items to work on, or, at least one. But, and also just reinforcing the value that the people involved in the meeting are going to get out of it, because that reinforces, that they're going to want to keep doing it. Like if they're doing it for you, unless you're completely bribing them and it's enough of a bribe. But even then, the intrinsic motivation won't be there.
Exactly.
But, if they do kind of start to feel like, oh yeah, we got together and we decided we could do it this way differently, and now we are working better, then it's like, oh, I can't wait till the next retro. We're going to, uncover some other idea. So
We have to make it their idea to follow Agile.
well, or facilitate pulling their ideas out. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. In the end, definitely.
Well said, Doug.
If that's a wrap, I would like to thank Amit very much for having this presentation and facilitating some great conversation. So thank you for that. And it was very good to meet you as well.
Yep.
And as we work at the same company now. So please, if you can visit our website for future meetings. We are taking December off, but we'll catch you in January. So have a very good holiday for everyone, and good to see you all, and Happy New Year. Right?
Right. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Yep. See you soon.
Have a great night.
Well, all right, good night.
Thank you.